I'm Jane Kenyon. This is, I guess, called a round robin reading. I think maybe we should rename it the Dead Robin reading. We've all had we've talked too much, and we've had too much to eat and too much to drink, and very possibly we've listened to too many poems. But here are some more. I'm going to begin with a poem about our farmhouse in New Hampshire. We moved to the country 3 years ago, and it's been like a resurrection. This one's called Now That We Live. Fat spider by the door, brow of hayfield, blue eye of pond, sky at night like an open well. Whippoorwill calls in the tall grass, I belong to the Queen of Heaven. The cheerful worm in the cheerful ground, regular shape of meadow and wall, under the blue, imperturbable mountain. The next one is called Rain in January, and where we live it's terribly cold. Often doesn't go above freezing for a month at a time. So when it rains in January, it's a very strange event. And I tried to convey that sense of strangeness in this poem, Rain in January. I woke before dawn, still in my body. Water ran down every window and rushed from the eaves. Beneath the empty feeder, a skunk was prowling for suet or seed. The lamps flickered and then came on again. Smoke from the chimney could not rise. It came down into the yard and brooded there on the unlikelihood of reaching heaven. When my arm slipped from the arm of the chair, I let it hang beside me, pale, useless, and strange. Here's another poem about the winter landscape. There's not much to do in the winter except write poems and read and try to stay warm. This one's called Full Moon in Winter. Bare branches rise and fall overhead. The barn door bangs loose, persistent as remorse after anger and shouting. Dogs bark across the pond. The shadow of the house appears on the crusted snow like the idea of a house, and my own shadow lies down in the cold at my feet, lunatic, like someone tired of living in a body, needy and full of desire. The next one is called Hidden Damage, and it's for Joyce Pesseron. On a bright blue day in January, we meet in the city for lunch. You tell me about your student at the community college whose husband beats her when she tries to study, but only on the upper arms and shoulders where the bruises won't show. Back at the bus station, waiting for the bus, I watch the driver loading freight into the hold. Neat lettering on one carton admonishes the recipient to check for hidden damage and to report all claims promptly. We drive north in late afternoon sun. Each thin sapling beside the road has a shadow, and all the shadows lengthen now, arriving together at the same conclusion. I tilt the seat back, intending to sleep, but I'm thinking of the violence of men toward women. I'd like to end with two translations of poems by Anna Akhmatova. A year or so ago, I was talking to a friend about my work and maybe some new directions that I could go, some what I should think about doing next. And he said to me, well, you should really take someone as a master, begin to read someone as a master. And I said, well, I never really had thought of reading anyone quite in that way before. And we talked for a few minutes about who that poet should be, whose poems I should be reading in this way. And finally said to him, I cannot take a man as a master. And he said, then you should read the poems of Anna Akhmatova. So I began collecting translations of her poems, and I felt really my attempts at translation came just from trying to read her, from trying to read her better and more closely. And I don't have Russian. I worked with someone from Dartmouth College, Lou Thiel, who does know Russian, and together we came up with these. I'll read two of them. This one she wrote in January of 1917. Along the hard crest of the snowdrift to my white, mysterious house, both of us quiet now, keeping silent as we walk. And sweeter than any song, this dream we now complete. The trembling of branches we brush against, the soft ringing of your spurs. And this last one I'll read, she wrote very near the end of her life in 1964. A land not mine, still, forever memorable, the waters of its ocean chill and fresh, sand on the bottom whiter than chalk, and the air drunk like wine. Late sun lays bare the rosy limbs of the pine trees. Sunset in the ethereal waves, I cannot tell if the day is ending, or the world, or if the secret of secrets is within me again. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ai. That's spelled A-I. It's a Japanese word, which means love. And now that I've been seen without my glasses, I can put them on. Okay, I'll read a poem from my first book, Cruelty. This is called Cuba, 1962. When the rooster jumps up on the windowsill and spreads his red gold wings, I wake thinking it is the sun and call Juanita, hearing her answer, but only in my mind. I know she is already outside, breaking the cane off at ground level, using only her big hands. I get the machete and walk among the cane until I see her lying face down in the dirt. Juanita dead in the morning like this. I raise a machete. What I take from the earth I give back and cut off her feet. I lift the body and carry it to the wagon where I load the cane to sell in the village. Whoever tastes my woman and his candy, his cake tastes something sweeter than this sugar cane. It is grief. If you eat too much of it, you want more. You can never get enough. And my babies, I guess, my new poems from a book which is coming out in the spring called Killing Floor, and the dedication is for the ghosts, which is important. I usually have to work up to these, so I don't know how it's going to be. Killing Floor, 1, Russia, 1927. On the day the sienna-skinned man held my shoulders between his spade-shaped hands, easing me down into the azure water of Jordan, I woke 93 million miles from myself, Lev Davidovich Bronstein, shoulder deep in the Volga, while the cheap dye of my black silk shirt darkened the water, my head wet, water caught in my lashes. Am I blind? I rub my eyes, then wade back to shore, undress and lie down until Stalin comes from his place beneath the birch tree. He folds my clothes and I button myself in my marmot coat and together we start the long walk back to Moscow. He doesn't ask, what did you see in the river, but I hear the host of a man drowning in water and holiness, the castrati voices I can't recognize, skating on knives from trees, from air, on the thin ice of my last night in Russia. Leon Trotsky, bread, I want to scream, but silence holds my tongue with small spade-shaped hands, and only this comes so quietly. Stalin has to press his ear to my mouth. I have only myself. Put me on the train. I won't look back. To Mexico, 1940. At noon today, I woke from a nightmare. My friend Jacques ran toward me with an axe as I stepped from the train in Alma Ata. He was dressed in yellow satin pants and shirt, a marigold in winter. When I held out my arms to embrace him, he raised the axe and struck me at the neck. My head fell to one side, hanging only by skin. A river of sighs poured from the cut. 3. Mexico, August 20th, 1940. The machine gun bullets hit my wife in the legs, then zigzagged up her body. I took the shears, cut open her gown, and lay on top of her for hours. Blood soaked through my clothes. And when I tried to rise, I couldn't. I wake then, another nightmare. I rise from my desk, walk to the bedroom, and sit down at my wife's mirrored vanity. I rouge my cheeks and lips, stare at my bone-white speckled egg of a face, lined and empty. I lean forward and I see Jacques' reflection. I half turn, smile, then turn back to the mirror. He moves from the doorway, lifts the pickaxe, and strikes the top of my head. My brain splits. The pickaxe keeps going, and when it hits the tile floor, it flies from his hands, a black dove on whose back I ride. 2 men, one cursing, the other blessing all things. Lev Davidovich Bronstein, I stepped from Jordan without you. Well, that was all right. Okay. Okay. I'm from Arizona, and I have a strange relationship. I was raised among Mexican people and Indian people, and I myself am half Japanese, an eighth black, an eighth Choctaw Indian, an eighth German, and an eighth Irish. So that's I don't know, but I feel a special relationship with Mexican people and Emiliano Zapata, the Mexican revolutionary. Mexican Revolution began in 1910. In this poem, I mentioned Rosebud Morales. That's a person I dreamed about who always carried the Brothers Karamazov with him. And this is for myself. I don't know how it'll sound because I just revised it, but here we go. This is called Pentecost. Excuse me, for myself. Rosebud Morales, my friend, before you deserted, you'd say anyone can kill an Indian and forget at the same instant that it will happen to me, Emiliano Zapata, but my men want more corn for tortillas, more pigs, more chickens, more chilies, and land. If I haven't got a gun or a knife, I'll fight with a pitchfork or a hoe to take them from the bosses, those high-flying birds with the pomade glistening on their hair as they promenade into their coffins. And if I'm killed, if we're all killed right now, will go on the true Annunciation. Rosebud, how beautiful this day is. I'm riding to meet Guajardo. He'll fight with me now against Carranza. When I get to the hacienda, it's quiet, not many soldiers, a sorrel horse, its reins held by a woman in a thin white American dress, and Guajardo standing on a balcony. I get off my horse and start up the steps. My legs burn, my chest, my jaw, my head. There's a hill in front of me. It's slippery. I have to use my hands to climb it. At the top, it's raining fire and blood on rows and rows of black corn. Machetes are scattered everywhere. I grab one and start cutting the stalks. When they hit the ground, they turn into men. I yell at them, "You're damned even in heaven. Dying doesn't end anything. Get up, swing those machetes, boys. Take the land, take it, it's yours. If you suffer in the grave, you can kill from it." And this one is for Yukio Mishima, who's considered the most Western of Japanese writers. He committed harakiri in the early 70s, and that you know, the ritual suicide, and then he had a friend cut his head off and put it on his stomach. And I mentioned a woman named Etsuko in here, and this Etsuko is just a character in a novel called Thirst for Love. This is called Nothing But Color. I didn't write Etsuko. I sliced her open. She was carmine inside, like a sea bass, and empty. No viscera, nothing but color. I love you like that, boy. I pull the kimono down around your shoulders and kiss you. Then you let it fall open. Each time I cut you a little, and when you leave, I take the piece, broil it, dip it in ginger sauce, and eat it. It burns my mouth so. You laugh, holding me belly down with your body. So much hurting to get to this moment when I'm beneath you, wanting it to go on and to end. At midnight you say, see you tonight, and I answer, there won't be any tonight. But you just smile, swing your sweater over your head, and tie the sleeves around your neck. I hear you whistling long after you disappear down the subway steps. As I walk back home, my whole body tingling, I undress and put the bronze sword on my desk beside the crumpled sheet of rice paper. I smooth it open and read its single sentence. I meant to do it. No, it should be common and feminine, like I can't go on sharing him, or something to imply that, or the truth that I saw in myself, the 5 signs of the decay of the angel, and you holding on, watching and free, that I decided to go out with the pungent odor of this cold and consuming passion in my nose, death. Now I've said it, that vulgar word that drags us down to the worms, sightless, predestined. God damn you, boy, nothing I said mattered to you. That bullshit about Etsuko or about killing myself. I tear the note, then burn it. The alarm clock goes off, 5:45 a.m. I take the sword and walk into the garden. I look up, the sun, the moon, 2 round teeth rock together, and the light of one chews up the other. I stab myself in the belly, wait, then stab myself again. It's snowing, I'll turn to ice, but I'll burn anyone who touches me. I start pulling my guts out, those red silk cords spiraling skyward, and I'm climbing them past the moon and the sun, past darkness into white. I mean to live. And the last one. It's about Lope de Aguirre, and there's a little epigraph. In 1561, on an expedition down the Marañón in Amazon to find El Dorado, Lope de Aguirre killed Ursúa, the leader of the expedition, and scores of others. He declared rebellion against Spain and set out to conquer Peru, con el alma in los dientes, with his soul between his teeth. Okay, this is called The Gilded Man. 1. The Orinoco, 1561. For a while today, the rafts almost flow side by side. The river is as smooth and soft as a strip of emerald velvet sewn around the hem of your dress, my daughter. I call you Vera Cruz because you are the true cross from which I hang by ropes of gold. The word father, a spear of dark brown hair, enters my side and disintegrates, leaving me whole again, smelling of quinces and gunpowder and your stale, innocent breath. What is it? You whisper. I take your hand and we walk into the jungle. I watch you raise your dress, bend, and tear your petticoat with your teeth. You fold the torn cloth and slide it between your legs. Then you hold out your bloody hands and I wipe them on my shirt, already red from fighting. Ursúa is dead, Guzman is dead, there is no Spain. I'm hunting El Dorado, the gilded man. When I catch him, I'll cut him up. I'll start with his feet and give them to you to wear as earrings. Talk to me. I hear nothing but the monkeys squealing above me. I point my arquebus at a silhouette in the trees and fire. For a moment, I think it's you falling toward me, your dress shredding to sepia light. I drop the arquebus and stretch out my hands. Fall, darling, fall into me. Lope de Aguirre, I hear my name as I lift you in my arms. Daughter, beautiful, you weigh no more than ashes. 2. Barquisimeto, Venezuela, October 27, 1561. Today it rained vengefully and hard, and my men deserted me. My kingdom was as close as calling it by name, Peru. I braid your hair, daughter, as you kneel with your head in my lap. I talk softly, stopping to press your face to my chest. Vera Cruz, listen, my heart is speaking. speaking. I am the fishes, the 5 loaves, the women, the men I killed simply ate me. There is no dying, only living in death. I was their salvation. I am absolved by their hunger. El Dorado, the kingdom of gold, is only a tapestry I wove from their blood. Stand up, my enemies will kill me, and they won't be merciful with you. I unsheath my dagger, your mouth opens, I can't hear you, I want to, tell me you love me. You cover your mouth with your hands, I stab you, then fall beside your body. Veracruz, see my skin covered with gold dust and tongues of flame, transfigured by the Pentecost of my own despair. I, Aguirre the wanderer, Aguirre the traitor, the gilded man. Does God think that because it rains in torrents, I am not to go to Peru and destroy the world? God, the boot heel an inch above your head is mine. God, say your prayers. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lawrence Kearney. His first poem's called Delight. After the delights of the body falter, and the delight of the mind in invention has dulled, there is still the delight of failure. 100 daily evasions, losses so slight they could dance on the head of a pin, and occasionally something larger, like getting fired or divorced or losing a child, anything you think you can never get back. When it happens, you stand there staring at your hands, wanting grief to tear at your shirt. You blame others, but at heart take your failure greedily to yourself. It is yours. It is the proof of your power to ruin your own life. It is coming home, and your mother is there at the door. And, I fucked up, Christ. It is coming home after your second divorce, and your mother hugs you at the front door, both of you crying and kissing, full of solace and relief and the secret delight that once again you have failed. I told you so, oh darling, I told you so. This is a poem for my mother. It's called Mother, Alone in the Attic. And it's in 2 parts. My mother is speaking. Mother, alone in the attic. 1. What I want to do is open the trunk and lay out the winter clothes to dust the moss crystals away. And I will put on the muskrat coat, my mother's, and be the mama bear of the fairy tale. And why not? My husband at work doing God knows what, and the children at school. But soon they'll be home for lunch, bringing some small grief or accomplishment, and I will crouch by the window and pretend I'm not here and wait for them to leave, patient as dust on the sill. And then I will go downstairs, still in Mother's muskrat coat, and the bread, the peanut butter and jelly, all the food the children have left on the table will tremble as I begin my dance, thumping at first, then whirling and whirling till I lift off the floor, till I let loose in the house forever the fur-coated beast from the cave of my heart. Exhausted, I flop back on the pile of Mother's quilts. That antiseptic, almost sexual smell of moth crystals. A few feet above my head, the dark, shaggy beams lean into each other, holding everything up. I can almost touch them. When I was a girl, I'd sit in the attic for hours. I loved the slanted walls, the child's ceiling, the one room my parents would have to stoop to enter. They didn't belong there. There, the world seemed closer. I'd look out the oval-shaped window and everything would be clean. No people or noise, just a high-up sycamore in our front yard, its leaves half yellow, half shadow, turning and turning in wind light. Tomorrow, I go back to the hospital. At first, when the cancer took, I fell to pieces. I felt like a girl again, helpless and flattered. I'd never known such a tension, how every minute the pain, that harsh, insistent lover stayed faithful. Passion, they say, emaciates, and it's true. I crumbled like sugar. And occasionally, above me, the smiles of the doctors circling like crows, the cow-eyed nurses, or my husband bending to kiss me goodbye for the day as though I were already dead. I saw it all and said nothing. Though the black rose had eaten my breast, my lungs, I said nothing. And yet, at this moment, how I long to talk with them, to call my husband and children up the rusty stairs to sit with me here in the attic. And if they came, how I would hold each of their faces and kiss each of them deeply and tell them how difficult and unnecessary it has become to love them, that I am not ashamed, that I am angry nearly all the time, that their helpfulness is just another kind of greed, because I'm still alive, because for the first time in my life is my own, now that it's finished. I wrote that poem in the past month, so I'm not sure it's finished yet. This is another one I've just recently done. It's called The Emperor's Old Clothes. Everyone could see them, which made them common and ridiculous. The cuff and sleeve, the collar of mortal ermine, its circular shadows on a field of snow, and the embroidery, gold braided into millefleur and a trellis of vine leaves that made the young girls who sewed it blind, that it was all too heavy, that every time he put it on, he wore the tedium that made it. He called in tailors, priests from the local monastery. They saw that what he wanted was to be embezzled out of that weight, that the consummate betrayal is the betrayal of self. Hearing news of a suicide, we are shaken. How could anyone willingly enter that absence we most fear? No, we say, we must wear our lives till they wear us out. Not emperors, nor tailors. They know what the suicides know, the ones the emperor saw at the window that midsummer's eve, their weary fish mouths going up and down as they tried to speak, to somehow shape the words that would say it was easy, We do not repent. We never fell from grace. We flew. And how he felt then, turning back to the mirror, the darkness behind him in the mirror saying, yes, the mahogany closet sagging in on itself saying, yes, and the tailors nodding as they step from the corner, holding eternity up by the seams, how the robe slid from his shoulders, and how he stepped then, happily ever after, into the glad rags of the invisible. I'm going to end with a longish poem, so bear with me. My grandfather was a raving Marxist, and I once saw, I think it was in Ms., there was a quote from someone who said, I was married to a fascist. No, my first marriage was to a fascist, and the second guy I married was a communist, and neither one would take out the garbage. And my grandfather was the, you know, that kind of, he loved humanity but treated my grandmother like a slave. But he was just a great person. I loved him. This is called The Heaven of Full Employment for my grandfather. 1. Now you are nearly nothing, a few handfuls of ash in a crematory vase. Your great emphysemic hulk powdered into anonymity, the smoky machinery of Glasgow. Gray of the woolly overcoats and the rooftops by the Clyde Bank, 7 in the morning and can't breathe. Gray of the lungs that died 3 years before you did. 2. It's the June before you die, and we're walking down by our Ardrossan, stopping every 50 feet so you can breathe. The storm the night before has laced the beach with garbage, and the balls of black seaweed burst under our shoes. And while we rest against the pilings, you hawk a knot of blood the size of a baby's fist into the sand, as you begin your wheezy, low-pitched rant of the heaven of full employment, of Celtic destiny and the imminent collapse of the West, the workers rising from the dead on the last day of history. Good riddance to the bloody bourgeoisie and to Glasgow, their city, their finest creation, Glasgow and its endless money-sucking slaughter of the poor. 3. The poor, like the dead, were everywhere. In your soup, in the denture glass on the nightstand, in the mirror in the morning when you shaved. Your father, a Dublin drunk, 13 kids, and you the eldest, 3 sisters, dead by the time you were 20. You let Marx fill your brain with bread, because you saw through the slogans to the white heat at center, hunger. Because Lenin had laid the Eucharist on your fat Irish tongue, and someone had to say something. Starlings lived better than people, and that someone, God damn it, was you, with your nimbus of rage and your bullying and the old song and dance down at the shipyards in the black before dawn. Brothers, it's another day and we can choose. We can throw down our chains, or we can walk through that gate and kiss English ass for 5 bob a day. And what I'm asking you is, how long will you sweat to feed the bosses instead of your own children? How long will you go down on your hands and knees and let let them eat off your backs when you're men, for Christ's sakes. And men can rise up and take what's theirs. It's your back, your sweat. What else do you own? 4. And every morning they walked through the gates. And every morning you followed. The factory horns downriver, scattering the dust of the lost revolution, the sun still not up, and what was left of the moon flaking belly up into light on the river, your last days in the world. 5. Salt coats, red Clydeside, the Gorbals, Ardrossan. Your places forget everyone. Even the fog looming off Arran no longer contains you, nor the gaffers in Lonnie's, hunched over their pints or dragging their dusty lungs home to the wife, though one of them must have known you, must have seen your fumes rise that morning out the crematory chimney into the blue planks of light angling through the clouds where the dead, that proletariat of last breaths, gathered you in their vast arms as one of them. 6. Yes, to believe that, to imagine your smoke fanning over the streets and me on the battlements of Glasgow, speeding you on to a final palavering of heroes and fizzle of Celtic twilight, while miles below the Clyde slides seaward, dreaming its tired dream of the Atlantic Ocean. Though there's nothing in that dream for either of us, I bend over your death like a Hasid over a text from the other world. But all I read is smoke, the stink of cigarettes and onions, the breath of an old man who wants only to crumble and blow away without white light or churning upwards to God or a single moment of silence to bear witness, only the earth going on anyway, the grass, the sparrow-choked cypresses, the air itself, teeming. 7. This morning, I noticed the face moving beneath the bones of my face. Lousy lungs and lousy politics, bad news mailed from your blood to mine, there in the bathroom mirror, your face, a durable, ordinary object in someone's Russian novel, and it's near the end of the story, and we finally caught on that all the characters are the same person, the separate lives braiding to a common death, a brotherhood, that the Troika riding all night with a message from the Tsarina summoning you to Petersburg is a message from you to you. Look how the horses' hooves send up flowers of snow, the waxed runners sighing under the weight of the snotty-nosed driver who takes another heft of vodka as he passes the house of the village priest, the priest tickling his wife behind the knees as she bends over the table with his bowl of supper, the snow swirling at the window and the sound of horse bells, the sound of a troika rushing past. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathleen. I'm going to be reading some from the Jane Poems, which is a political book based on Native American, North American music. The first one is called Mainlining Headlines. Can you hear it? Going back microphone. I'm sorry. Is this a microphone? Yes. Okay, can I hold it? You want me to begin again? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right, I need to be behind the podium? There's no neck thing? I'll try. I hope you'll all be with me. Don't like this. Okay, I'll start again. I'm Kathleen Spivak, and I'm reading from the Jane Poems, which is a political book based on indigenous North American music. All right? Mainlining headlines. Daily News, her drug, she can't do without it. It comes all red, it comes intravenous. To get high and fly in that heaven of horror. She don't want to look, she looks. Small letters. The leaves change. The trees do not change. I'm waiting here on your front porch, giving up. Inside, the rooms are saying, you have no messages for me. A stare on the step, an overturned table. It is the end of summer. Goodbye. The doorbell is ringing. Your telephone is ringing. I am trying to tell you there are still some connections, but you stand in your kitchen silent, wiping your hands. The next one is called Love USA, and it's for all of us who went through the 60s together. Did you have the 60s in England? You did. Good. Love USA. Love in the peaceful USA. Draw the shades down. Draw our light limbs together and let us love gently, as if that's still possible. Not heaving and struggling like in the movies with bosomy gasps as the man takes her over. I'll tame you, my vixen. As he rips off her clothes, she sighs, ah. Not like young revolutionaries, shouting and fucking, sweating out power, more power in bed, fighting the system by freeing your body till you are a cipher in some weird class struggle. No, love me. Lie down and close out the country, and close out tradition, and turn off the TV, and let the newspapers pile up on the doorstep, and kick in the radio. See how the rhetoric dribbles away. And for once, let's be lyrical, like in the poems. Let's pretend. This is a wedding, and it's a tap dance. No, it's too long, sorry. I won't do it, I'll skip that. Okay, the next poem is called Yes, and I usually read it with flute. So please, in your minds, imagine a flute kind of dribbling in the background. Yes. Your large hose is peeing under my window. The garden looks up gratefully. Inside, I'm trying to write. You will never let me alone. Not even if I hurt you. Not even if I love you. I want to leave, but I cannot. I need you the way the lawn does. Something shameful in this secret dependence. Flowers. Regarding the insides of flowers, this is something about which I have meant to write you for a long time. How awkwardly, but to a bee, fascinating it must seem, going into their sticky centers, half repellent, touching their furry genitalia, horrible to love and seek so, being dependent. Flowers, perfectly formed hemispheres, the pretend insistence on privacy, like the hidden lady slipper, modest, shocking, sudden labia, blushing, bifurcated, veined, and obvious. It is so soft slipping in, is it not, and out? I, too, am always obsessed with the insides of flowers, yearning to plunge a finger into them, or a metaphor, the, quote, hermaphroditic artist, quote, invading the subject, shivering at anemones, at their dark secret centers, or the double wheel within a poppy, spoked mouth slit and laughing. The language of flowers, spoken, translates sex. If a daylily bends in the vase, it means she is waiting. If straight, trouble ahead. If the flowers persist in their drooping, throw them out, but refurbish, for it is good to have fresh flowers beside one, breathing their bodily secrets by night, cleverly accessible and bedded, moist. The last poem I'm going to read is called "But You, My Darling, Should Have Married the Prince." When we were children, clasping hands, do you remember that moist circle play? How we were dancing and you only the dandelions, and the earth was livid with dandelions? I see us now as in a photograph that never was, hair like soap bubbles spun by nuns, our singing raucous as starch. Our cries still echo down the corridors of my ears. We, rank and weedy, wanting to be old. There were no secrets then to prickle our knees. Beards were friendly as forests of grass. How we trembled, pretending to be lost, caught in the chins of uncles. We pared apples, made wishes, and washed in the first dew of May. Mother went through our laundry, and we didn't mind. But how we wept when our cousin got married. Home from the army, his 6-month mustache saluted both sides of his face. Jealous as bridesmaids, we watched as he married the girl. She had apricot hair and a cameo ring. Look now, how he takes her hand. Never was it like that, picking scabs. Peaches and morning were right for those two, not for us little pickles, fevered in bed, yanking knots from our furious hair in the dark, and begging to be blonde. Nights came, net notching our chests, thighs sticky. We went to the dances and put up our hair. You lost your virginity in Mother's garden, and finally I was kissed. Now we are older. You are married. Natasha's both. We have grown up. Those shivery wonderings lit from the street are over. Cousins put away in paper boxes. Outside, the walnut trees grow sticky as old tears, and I lie sweating in the dark. The dusk comes swallow-winged. The apples rot with wishes. Where there is no magic, one stays a toad, and we, who scream to know it and grow old. Thank you.
I'm Judith Sherwin. I'll start with a variation on the sonnet form. In this variation, instead of rhyming, all the lines end with the same word. Turn over and lie still. Each way you turn, tells me how fixed our center is. We turn like wheels, like worlds, like rope in one fast turn about that mast whose firm stance cannot turn, but holds love past force of life, tied to turn. Or say, our love will tear, as flesh must turn with too long keeping. It is the